Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, the Phillies get swept out of Texas by the Rangers. They start the season 0-3 and now have a tough series in New York against the Yankees. What in the world has gone wrong to start the season for the Philadelphia Phillies? Let's get into it on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5, The Fanatic on the radio. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM, can't talk today, and managing your baseball franchise? Then this game is definitely for you. To download the game, just visit ultimatebaseballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in all caps in the game. So go ahead and check that out. And when you do, I don't know, maybe try and look on there and see if there's any clues as to what went wrong for the Philadelphia Phillies to start this season, because it's a very realistic, fun game to play. I'll tell you what's, I guess, realistic but not fun was the first three games of the Philadelphia Phillies season. The Phillies go down to Texas to take on the Rangers, and they get absolutely demolished. They get swept out. They're 0-3. Let me see exactly who in the Major League Baseball standings are 0-3, because I looked at 0-2 and I know the Phillies are one of four teams, and it wasn't exactly great company. So let's go ahead to the standings now, and we'll look at any teams 0-3. The Royals are 0-3. The Detroit Tigers are 0-3, and the Philadelphia Phillies are 0-3. They're the only three winless teams in baseball. I'd say your aspirations are a heck of a lot higher than the Detroit Tigers or the Kansas City Royals. That is not good whatsoever. It was just a really, really bad stretch for the Philadelphia Phillies. Of course, they lose on opening day by that hefty score of 11-7. Then they follow that up with just a vintage Philadelphia Phillies early season performance. They get smoked 16-3 on Saturday and lost 2-1 last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Man, I don't even. Let's start with Saturday's game. We'll talk a little bit about last night's game too, but Saturday they get absolutely demolished. First of all, C.B. Buckner is the worst umpire I may have ever seen, Angel Hernandez included. Like, they're 1A and 1B as far as major problems with Major League umpires. C.B. Buckner should never umpire another game again. He was terrible. They put out umpire scorecards on Twitter. I don't know if you follow it. If not, you should check it out, because it rates out how the umpires did in the game based on the average performance, and also grades them out on percentage of like balls and strikes called correctly and things like that, impactful calls. And it has this interesting thing called, I'm trying to remember specifically what it's called, but basically it's like the mistakes that the umpires made, did they give an advantage to either team? And C.B. Buckner, this might be the most I've ever seen in favor of one team or another. There was a 3-run favor. Nearly 3. It was like 0.296 or something, or 2.96. We'll just call it 3. A 3-run favor for the Texas Rangers. Now, the final score of the game was 16-3. The Phillies didn't lose this game because of C.B. Buckner, but he certainly didn't help them remotely. Like, anytime you're calling the game 3 runs in favor of another team, it's basically like the Phillies starting the game on the road, down 3 against the Texas Rangers, being the away team. That's not good. Now, the Phillies collapsed very much on their own, and the pitching was abysmal. You had a point coming into Sunday's game where you had 2 of your top 4 relief pitchers that we talk about. We talk about the big 4, right? We talk about Seranthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado, Gregory Soto, and Craig Kimbrell. 2 of those 4, Soto and Kimbrell, had infinite ERAs. They'd given up an earned run, and had not recorded an out yet this season. Going into the 3rd game of the year, it was just flat out bad. Josh Harrison had to pitch. You got a position player pitching, the first one in Major League Baseball this season, in the, what was it? Yeah, it would have had to have been the 8th, because the Rangers are the home team. In the 8th inning of your 2nd game of the year, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think Zach Wheeler looked bad. We talked about Aaron Nola's performance on opening day, and Zach Wheeler's performance was similar and better. Like, he looked good for the first couple of innings. Then he had one kind of blow up inning, but Rob Thompson went and got him. He only gave up, I think he only gave up 2 runs. Zach Wheeler did. 2 earned. Let me go ahead into the box score here. But I mean, he wasn't awful. It wasn't like Zach Wheeler gave up 10 or anything like that. And I thought his stuff looked good. He had 4 earned runs because of inherited runs, because he left with runners on. And then, a 3-run home run was given up by Junior Marte once he came in the game for Zach Wheeler after what should have been a strike 3 called to a batter, but CB Buckner called it a ball. Wheeler gets pulled because of that. Marte comes in, gives up a 3-run home run after getting the second out of the inning, which should have been the third out of the inning, and then the wheels are off the wagon. So it was a nightmare game on Saturday for the Philadelphia Phillies. They just got it absolutely handed to them. It was the most runs given up. So they gave up 16 and 11, which is 27, if my math is correct, and rarely it is. But they gave up 27 runs through the first 2 games of the season. That's the most since like the 1800s that the Phillies have started out a season giving up. It's a near impossibility of being that bad on the mound. And I hesitate to say defensively, because there are no major defensive lapses in any of the games that cost you significantly. But yeah, the pitching was awful. The starting pitching didn't go deep enough into the games. And even though there were innings where Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola looked good, they didn't give you ace-level performances. And then the bullpen was absolutely atrocious and just fell apart. And Texas just hung it on the Philadelphia Phillies from game 1 to game 3. It was very, very disheartening. That was Saturday's game. There really were no positives out of Saturday's game. I don't know what you could glean out of that you would say is a good thing. I don't know. Derek Hall was 2 for 3. That's cool. Nick Castellanos stayed hot Saturday. He was 2 for 4. Trey Turner was 2 for 5, had another triple. Those are all good things, but when you only score 3 runs and your opponent scores 16, those are games you'd like to forget. And then last night, Sunday Night Baseball, wow. Like, where do I even start with this one? The offense becomes non-existent. They lose 2-1. And Bailey Falter was actually really, really good in this one. Bailey Falter looked great. He gave up an early home run to Josh Young that went out. It's actually kind of a sadly funny moment in the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast, because they had Trey Turner mic'd up, and they were talking to him at the bottom of the second when Young hit his home run. And he hits the ball, and Trey Turner, who was in the middle of saying something, just goes, "Oh, no." And then the ball just gets touched out to right center field. Same place Alec Boehm went out on opening day against Jacob deGrom, and just like that, it is 1-0. Phil's got one back following that with Josh Harrison grounding into a double play in the top of the 4th. So even when the Phils score, isn't that how their luck is right now? Even when the Phils score, they're hitting into a double play to do it. That's annoying. And then Marcus Semien in the bottom of the 5th, single to right field, second run allowed by Bailey Falter. It was the only thing they need, because the final 4 innings of last night's ball game were scoreless. And the Phillies just couldn't capitalize on runners in scoring position last night. But last night was like Sunday Night Baseball was a baseball loss. Sometimes you go out there and you face a good pitcher in Martin Perez, who's a very good pitcher and owned the Phillies last year when he saw him. And you just you can't figure it out. You get 1 run, you get some opportunities, but you can't solve the puzzle. And then the bullpen comes out and they do their job for the other team. And you say, okay, we lost 2-1. We didn't get smoked. The offense struggled a little bit, but there are going to be games that even the best offense in baseball, which still could be this one, struggle. Right now, I'd imagine it's the Texas Rangers, considering they've scored 28 runs. They're nearly averaging 10 runs a game right now, thanks to the Philadelphia Phillies' complete collapses in the first 2 games. But Sunday night was a palatable baseball loss. Saturday was unacceptable. Opening day was unacceptable. A 9-run inning on opening day and giving up 16 runs while only scoring 3 on Saturday is just about as bad of a start to the season as you can possibly have. Coming up next, we're going to discuss what it means for the Philadelphia Phillies as a whole, not in the vacuum of a 3-game series. How worried should we be? Should we be worried at all? And what are the players that we should be most worried about from shaky opening week performances, or opening weekend, I should say, and series performances? We'll discuss as we continue Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you about my friends over at Ultimate Baseball GM. They bring us today's episode. Pro Baseball GM it's the coolest app I've used in a long time. Great game. I've always thought I could be yeah, I always thought I could be a major league GM. I look at it and I say, okay, this is the signing Dave Dombrowski should have made. Now, I felt this way a lot more when Matt Klentak was in charge of the team. Dave Dombrowski is a wizard. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. So maybe I can't do it to Dave Dombrowski's level. But I'm like, okay, I could sign these guys. I could trade these guys. I can find somebody available. I know baseball. Well, you could go ahead and put your metal to the test with Pro Baseball GM. Go ahead and check it out immediately. The game allows you to manage every strategic aspect, even ones you don't even consider. So, yeah, of course, you can sign players and put a lineup together, bring in free agents, trade for players, draft players, sign international players, and use that slot money, hire managers and other coaches, everything like that. Sponsorship deals, uniform deals, things like that are all things you have to figure out throughout the app to go ahead and keep your team running smoothly. So go ahead and check it out. And it's all in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. So you can play as you go, on the go, as you want and when you want to. So go ahead and check it out. And Locked On Phillies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Let's get into what exactly went wrong for the Philadelphia Phillies. Not just talking about the actual games and the processes, who scored the runs, who didn't have good at bats, this, that, and the other thing. No, let's look at this from a little bit more of an all-encompassing view. And first off, before I get into this, I do have to say, hat tip to the Texas Rangers. That team's not a bad baseball team. I don't know if they're a playoff team. It's too early to tell. But what I will say is they gel together well. They hit the cover off the baseball. They're going to pitch really, really well if everyone in their starting rotation stays healthy. That top three in the rotation is really good. Like, this is a situation. The Phillies have not beat the Texas Rangers since 2014, I don't think. I think it's been nearly a decade, which is insane. So the Texas Rangers just own the Philadelphia Phillies. But you're also looking at a situation where, okay, the Rangers' real strength, I think, is those top three arms in their rotation. Jake DeGrom, Nate Eovaldi, and Martin Perez are your top three. And the Phillies just so happen to get them on opening day when all those guys are fresh and ready to go and focused, and you play them on the road and you haven't beaten them in nearly a decade. It was just kind of a perfect storm when you look back on the situation that the Phillies were forced into. Not an excuse, not at all. You should be able to win one, if not two of those games and win the series. But I'm just saying it's not like this was you went down to Washington and played the Nationals and they did this to you. Hat tip to the Texas Rangers. Good baseball team. I'm very interested to see what they do this year in their division over there in the American League. But with the Philadelphia Phillies, the first major concern is the pitching. Normally, the pitching is ahead of the hitting this time of the year. So the fact that the Phillies gave up 27 runs through 2 games is super concerning, especially for the bullpen. I'm not super worried about the starters. Like, I think Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are going to be fine. Here's what you got to remember about Aaron Nola. Everyone who was complaining after opening day about, oh, this is typical Aaron Nola, he does this all the time. Yeah, he does. And he still finishes the year as one of like the top 15 pitchers in baseball pretty consistently. It's going to even out. It's not ideal. You'd rather him be good every game. But no one's good every game. And no one's good every inning. Some guys are, but those are the elite guys. Aaron Nola is pretty darn good. He's going to work his stuff out. I thought Zach Wheeler looked pretty good as well. He's got to get stretched out too. He had major issues with his arm last year, and it took him getting shut down in the regular season. So I'll give him some time to stretch out, but I thought he was as good as Nola was in his time pitching on Saturday. And starters take a little bit more time to get stretched out. The guys that I'm worried about are the bullpen guys. And we saw Gregory Soto last night on Sunday Night Baseball. He looked nasty, like filthy stuff, because he actually threw strikes as opposed to his first outing of the year that saw him gain an infinite ERA. So I look at Soto and I say, okay, looks like he's going to be all right, but bullpen pitchers are required to go out there and, I don't know, get 3 outs, maybe 6 outs in a crazy situation. Maybe in a situation where you give up 16 runs, they have to get like 6+ outs. But normally the ask is get us out of this inning. get us to the next inning, get us 3 or less outs. And that's not something you have to be as stretched out for. When I look at the bullpen and the performances that they've put in to this point in the year, that's concerning for me. And I'm going to be really watching this series with the Yankees to see what the bullpen looks like when the starters get out. I told you coming into the season with the starting rotation a little bit hurt, some of the bullpen guys are going to have to shoulder the load early, and they did not in the series against the Texas Rangers. Andrew Bellotti was really good. Gregory Soto's second appearance was good. Jose Alvarado was good. But outside of those guys, man, it was a really, really rough series for the bullpen. That's probably my chief concern right now. The offense is going to be fine. Like the Phillies have some guys putting up some really, really good numbers right now, despite what happened in the win column. Like I'm looking at the Phillies statistics right now and the team leaders. I mean, you look at average here, and I'm just going to go over and look at some of the top guys. And I know average isn't great when you start the year because the sample size is so small. But Edmundo Sosa's 2 for 4. He's batting .500 to lead the team going into the second series of the year. Bryson Stott's 5 for 11 in 3 games played. He's batting .455. Trey Turner, 5 for 13 with 2 triples and a double already. He's batting .385. Alec Boehm, who's been just a joy to watch so far this year, he is 4 for 11. He's got a home run. He's got a double, and he's looking at a .364 average. And Nick Castellanos is batting .364 right now, 4 for 11 with 3 doubles. Nicky doubles, leads the team in doubles. Trey Turner, I believe, actually leads Major League Baseball in triples with 2 to this point. That's crazy. And JT Realmuto is also batting .364. So the Phillies, I know average, it's small, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. Let's take Sosa out of there because Sosa's only had 4 bats, but let's call it 5 guys batting over .350 to start the year. So it's not like they're going out. They went out to Texas and they got no hit 3 times in a row. There's some good offense being put on display by the Philadelphia Phillies, and hopefully we'll see that in New York against the Yankees in a series that starts tonight. But I'm not overly worried about the offense, and I'm not worried about some of the guys lower down. Like Brandon Marsh, I still think has a nice year. Derek Hall had a good day yesterday. 2 days ago, Derek Hall had a good day. Last night was not ideal for Hall. Josh Harrison, he's not an offensive player, but the defense has been okay, besides a misplayed fly ball in left field yesterday where him and Trey Turner had a miscommunication. And Kyle Schwarber, who's batting .077, he's just going to hit homers. He's going to feel it out. Yeah, he almost had one on Sunday Night Baseball, and Garcia out there in center field robbed him. So not robbed him of a home run. I don't think it would get out, but took away a good opportunity for one. The Phils are going to be fine. Like overall, this team, take a deep breath because they started off terribly last year. And something that we brought up on 97.5 The Fanatic on the John Kincaid show this morning, the Braves used to get swept by the Phillies to start the year all the time. And then they'd end up winning the division and going to the World Series and doing what the Atlanta Braves do. So it's one series. It's not that important. It wasn't a fun one, but now you can rebound against the New York Yankees. And even if you don't against the Yankees, and God forbid they lose their first 6 games of the year and get swept out of New York too. But the schedule goes really, really easy from there for the rest of the month. So everyone deep breath. There are no major concerns about the Philadelphia Phillies right now. Just an annoyingly bad start to the season considering the expectations. Coming up, we're going to preview tonight's game with the New York Yankees real quick and discuss everything going on up there at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx tonight as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. The national championship and the tourneys tonight and the Built Bar March Madness tournament is still going on. So we know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. You can go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for cookie dough. I talk about it all the time. That's my favorite one. The cookie dough bar is my favorite. If you want one of your favorite bars to win, well, go ahead and you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bars. Not only that, but Locked On fans, well, one lucky one to be specific, will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built, the best protein bar ever. Why have you not tried it yet if you haven't? Seriously, they're so amazing. The numbers are great on this thing. Protein, very low in sugar and fat. It's great for you. So go ahead and check it out. They've got real chocolate, all that good stuff to make it taste good. So run to builtmarchmadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day of the tournament. So you got One more day to do it. Sorry. So hop in and support your pick. Okay, the Phillies are in the Bronx tonight to take on the New York Yankees. It is a 7:05 p.m. start and not an easy pitching matchup for the Philadelphia Phillies. Taijuan Walker will take the mound, and I think Walker is going to be an underratedly good part of the Philadelphia Phillies rotation this year. I think he's going to be super solid for the Philadelphia Phillies, but of course, he pitched for Team Mexico. We'll see what his arm looks like. He had to get his start pushed back because he returned back from the World Baseball Classic later than the team imagined he would. And they'll face Nestor Cortes, who's just a flat-out weirdo who throws with his legs wobbling all over the place half the time. You never know when he's going to deliver the baseball, and it's effective. It keeps hitters off balance. Now, the Yankees come into this game 2-1 after taking 2 from the San Francisco Giants at home. They've already played a home series. They don't have to go anywhere. So let's look at some of the top performers for the New York Yankees and guys you have to worry about. Oh, yeah, that Aaron Judge guy, he's already had 2 home runs and has 4 RBIs through his first 3 games. So that's pretty darn good. And let's see who else. Anthony Rizzo's batting .375. He's 3 for 8 through 3 games played. Look out for, well, you know what? Actually, that's funny. You know how I told you how the Phillies have 5 guys, 6 if you counted Mundo Soto, who's only really played 1 game, batting above .350. The Yankees have 2. It's Judge and Rizzo. So the offense for the Yankees hasn't exactly been what they've been looking for, but man, look at all the home runs they've hit. Judge has 2. Stanton has 2. Gleyber Torres has 1. Josh Donaldson has 1. They have 7 team home runs total. So you have to go ahead and look out for that. And that's part of the stadium that they're in. But hopefully the upside is those home runs that Kyle Schwarber nearly had, or Jake Cave nearly had on opening day, or Alec Boehm did hit, or Alec Boehm nearly hit yesterday in the 8th inning for the Philadelphia Phillies. Those are gone at Yankee Stadium. So we'll see if the bats come alive in the home run department. The Phillies still 1 home run on the year so far, courtesy of Alec Boehm in the 2nd inning on opening day. So they haven't left the yard again since that. They'll have to be able to do that if they're going to want to beat the Yankees, who are absolutely going to hit home runs in this series. The matchup predictor on ESPN, this is kind of crazy to me. A 61.4% chance that the New York Yankees win this game, as opposed to a 38.6% chance that the Phillies do. That feels disrespectful to how good the Phillies lineup is. I know they've lost 3 straight and they're not playing well right now, but Taijuan Walker's a good pitcher. Nestor Cortes is good, but I don't think he's like a world beater. And I think you have a really good chance. Last year, he was a 2.44 ERA, which is great. That's a great number. Guy's nasty. That's why they call him Nasty Nestor. And plus, he's a lefty, which doesn't play well against the Philadelphia, or does play well, but the Phillies don't hit well because you question whether or not Brandon Marsh will be able to play against him, even though Christian Pache was absolutely god-awful in yesterday's game. He was 0 for 3 with 6 runners left in scoring position, 1 pitch clock violation, and what am I missing here? Oh, yeah. I can see why he's hitting 154 for his major league career. I'd rather see Brandon Marsh anyway. Like, Pache is just, he does nothing for me, but Marsh and Derek Hall have both shown over their limited sample size against lefties at the major league level. They don't hit them well, so that's 2 bats in your lineup that you almost neutralize, and then you take Schwarber and Stott having to face the lefty. It'll be a tough matchup for the Phillies tonight. Do I think they get their first win of the year? I'm not confident in anything with this team right now when I look at a game-to-game basis. Once they win the first one, they'll be fine. It'll be like taking the lid off the basket in basketball. Once you get that first basket, see it go in, you can kind of get out of a shooting slump. So hopefully they get it tonight, but it's a tall task, and we'll see if they'll be able to go into the Bronx and the Phillies can win their first game of the year and get closer to bringing this back on the rails. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Hey, it's not too late. I know there's one series done, but you can still jump in on fantasy baseball. So check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball, and you can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies, free agent pickups, all that good stuff. So find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing on the YouTube. I really appreciate it. We're going to have hopefully some good things to talk about at points this year, but this is a rough one. Not going to lie. Tough start to the year for you and me and Phillies fans everywhere and the team. But still, some fun content to come on Locked On Phillies, where the Phillies won't be getting swept out of every series. So go ahead and hit that subscribe so you don't miss any bit of that content. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.